Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the program. You are watching, well, my family's 7th favorite show. Yes, they love all those Law and Orders. Andrew Richter, the television show, the voice of conservative, libertarian principles here in the northwest suburbs. I have a great action-packed 2-segment little mini-series here this week and next week. So yes, we'll all be wearing the same shirts. That's by design. You'll see half of this show this week, half of it next week. I want to introduce my 2 outstanding guests to you. Mr. Dennis Holman of New Hope. Dennis, welcome back.
Nice to be here. Thank you.
Good to have you back. And one of the few people I trust with 2 first names, Jason Bradley here to my left.
Thanks for having me back. And you didn't wait 70 shows this time.
I was going to say that too. It only took 10 shows to get you back. Now, you recognize Jason and Dennis. They've been on previous shows, and judging by my ratings, you saw them. And so we are going to have a couple shows here dealing with local stuff going on right here in your neighborhood where you ought to be informed of. We're going to spend today talking largely about the cities and school districts and their budgets and all the shenanigans going on. And the next week's program is going to deal more generally speaking with transit and mass transit and all that gobbledygook going down at the Met Council and all that crap. All right, first off, just an interesting way to segue here into this discussion. I hope you've been following the events in Wisconsin recently with the reforms proposed by the governor there. It's been going on in New Jersey. It's been going on in Ohio, Indiana, as I understand. I think it'll come to Minnesota at some point. Maybe. We'll see. But
we hope.
Yeah. I just want to get your guys' thoughts. Jason, I'll start with you. What's your thoughts on what's going on in Cheeseville over there, other than the Packers?
Well, I think that we have a fabulous lesson in front of our eyes right now. We keep hearing about democracy, democracy, democracy. Well, we live in a republic. It's law. That's the rule of the land. It's not mob rule. And I've had just a great opportunity to teach my children what democracy really is, because without, I think, seeing that for themselves, it's easy to confuse the two of them. I mean, democracy, rule of the people, well, it's 2 wolves and a sheep deciding what's for dinner. And with this, that's exactly what's happening. It's a minority of the people getting together and trying to shut down government until they get their way, until government caves. Where in a republic, we elect leaders to make laws based on, you know, a popular vote. It's a democratic process. And then the people we elect, by popular vote, then make our laws and our rules, and we live by that until the next election. But I mean, freedom of speech, that's great. Just, you can't be shutting down government.
Yeah, well, you know, I mean, what do you think about it, Dennis? And
well, I think there are so many grassroots voters who are holding their breath, waiting to see if the people they elected are going to do something. I think it's great that Walker has gotten, hit the ground running.
Yeah. The collective bargaining process is a big part of the problem, isn't it? I mean, isn't it, you know, when a school district, let me segue into our locals real quick here. I mean, when our school board and their team of people that sit down at the table with our unions that helped get them elected, is that really fair to the people who are paying the bills?
No, and I understand where some teachers are coming from, because if we go to a merit pay system, there's a lot of kids that have been sliding through for a lot of years, and it's going to perceivably hurt how much they earn per year. But I think that we have to change the whole system so that from the bottom up, we're demanding excellence. And we're failing kids when they don't hit the mark. And
well, as long as merit pay is not based on a single test, I think that's the big thing with that. But I mean, again, you know, I sit there and I listen, I watch negotiating, these so-called local negotiating, when one side really has a distinct advantage over the other. I mean, is that really fair? It's funny, we're paying the bill, but we're not sitting at the table, are we?
It's 2 sides against the taxpayer.
Yeah.
That's the way it turns out.
That's the way, because in the private world, when management, my dad was a Teamster for 30 years, but when he sat down, his representative sat down with management, he didn't elect who the management was.
No, and I mean, unions are necessary because there are some bad employers out there.
And
Yeah. Wow. On the other hand, it's become so much of a power thing for the people that head these unions. It's not for the worker anymore.
Exactly. I can tell you after 30 years in human resources management. I was in.
Give him a medal.
I was in on negotiations. I used to work with Fairview Community Hospitals, and I was in negotiations with the SEIU and the LPN Association and the Minnesota Nurses Association, on and on. And we weren't. I can tell you that we weren't on the same side, on the same page, much of the time. But in the whole school district thing, I mean, you know, the school boards and school management came up through the ranks of the unions.
And and not only that, but if you look at take the legislators they elect on top of it. I mean, the legislature has passed laws that favor the unions in their collective bargaining. For example, there's a deadline of January 15th. Now, I know there's some bills in the House right now of Minnesota trying to repeal this, but let me explain what happens. What happens is when the state does their their biennium, they give the school districts until January 15th to negotiate a contract with the teachers union, just that union, not the other ones. And if they don't reach an agreement by January 15th, the school district is fined $25 per day. But the unions are fined nothing, from what I understand. So there's this. There's things like tenure, where they decide that there's people you can't hire and fire. So we really don't have a fair collective bargaining.
Not at all.
Between the two sides, and that's just part of.
Well, not in any employee, in any government employee unions. I mean, you can name them all, and Wisconsin is going through that right now. Any government employee union is, in a situation where they're not really bargaining the way private industry bargains. It's a stacked deck against the taxpayer.
And if you make a bad deal, a company makes a bad deal, the company will end up going under, or like GM and get a bailout. But the school districts, they just turn to this empty pot of, or this endless pot of money called the taxpayers, right?
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep, that's exactly what happens.
We make up the difference.